Hey guys, I'm back. Welcome to part two. I'm inside now. You might hear some South Park playing in the background. If you hear that, I apologize. I just needed some kind of background noise. It's like 2 in the morning and I can't sleep, so I figured I would just carry right along with this series. Before I get any further, I had a request from Fishing Hunter 209 for a shout out for him. So Fishing Hunter 209, there you go. Look, I beat my record with the Fun Games shout out, who I completely forgot about doing it for like 4 straight videos. So I'm glad there was some positive response to part 1 of this. So now that we've done the kind of unboxing and the first look and a little mini review, I want to get in depth a little bit about each one of these, talk about them, you know, feature wise, and then move on to the actual testing. Again, this being the kind of off-brand, when I talk right now about sort of the features going on, I should move it. It's really the Elemental knives, the higher quality ones that I'm referring to, because they actually have a lot of great information on their website that will kind of spell it all out for you. First thing I want to talk about is the finish on the knives. One of the things I noticed, if you look at these, it's almost like it's got a plastic glossy coating over it. You know, whatever this graphic is. As I was reading on the website, they do put their own proprietary sort of gloss coat on there with a certain like hardness rating. And they tell you what that is for every knife. And it's different for every knife and for every different coating too. So that's pretty cool. So these two are what they call molded skin. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know if it's kind of like hydro dipping. I don't know if it's like a plastic sheet that is like heat sealed onto the knife. I'm not sure how it works because, you know, obviously it's their trade secret. But these two are molded. This is plated. Again, how they do it, exactly how it works, I don't know. I know that when they want to anodize steel to have this sort of titanium, almost anodized looking color, they usually have to put some kind of reflective or prismatic coating on top of it, which does that. Now, of course, you know, there's always exceptions to the rule, but this is definitely the plated blade, and these are the molded coated blades. Still don't have any better information as to what kind of steel they're actually made of. On the website, Mega Knife tells you this is 440C, so at least we know that one. These, they only say stainless. And what's interesting is that on the Elemental Knives website, they not only tell you the hardness rating of the coating, they tell you the Rockwell hardness of the knife blade itself. And each one of these has a different Rockwell hardness. They're all kind of in the same neighborhood, but I don't know if that tells us each one is made of a different kind of stainless steel, or maybe the machine was calibrated differently every day. I don't know, but we're gonna go over it. One of the other unanswered questions from part 1, I remember saying I wasn't sure if these were for looking at or for using. So I can't speak again on the Mega Knife website because they don't really care, they don't say, but Elemental anyway tells you under their frequently asked questions, and they spell it out. I'm quoting, I'm reading this from the website right here. All of the knives we make are for collection or display purposes only. So I'm wondering, if they offer dull and sharp knives, number one, why do you offer sharp ones if you're not supposed to use them? It just is weird to me. I don't know if that's kind of like a legal thing they put on there so that if somebody does something stupid and gets hurt, they can say, we told you it was for collection only. Or, I mean, I don't know. We're going to test them anyway, and we're going to use them, and we're going to see what they put up with. Because I want to test out these coatings, and I want to really see how the knives feel. I mean, if somebody likes this and they want to carry it around, can they carry it around as like an EDC blade? This would be a weird shape for an EDC blade, but I mean, could you? So we'll see. I want to start with what they call the flip knife, and that is the actual name, the Elemental flip knife, the one that looks just like a Benchmade Bedlam. I'm still blown away by the fake molded in access lock. I can't, for the life of me, imagine why they'd put that in there if it does nothing whatsoever. And I mean, and a lot of times when I'm messing with this knife, I'll go to close it, and I still instinctively I see that there, and I want to try to close it like an access lock knife. It's got fairly thin liner lock. On the website, it calls it a frame lock. It's not a frame lock, it's a liner lock. I would prefer if I could get my finger in there a little bit easier, but it has very secure lockup. You can see it's brand new and it's got great early lockup. It's not like a cheap knife where the lock comes all the way over. It's just a little hard to get it working now and then because it's kind of hard to get a good grip on that with your thumb. The flip knife with the case hardened coating, it has a Rockwell hardness according to the website of 58, which is pretty decent. It also has the EK finish durability rating of 82. So remember I said just a second ago that they rate the coating for its hardness and durability. It's rated on a 1 to 100 scale. 82 puts it kind of, you know, in the realm where, and again, reading off their website, finish holds with use but will wear down over time with regular use. It leads me to ask again, if you're telling me on the one hand that these things are just for collecting, but now you're telling me that it has a finish that is made to hold up with use but will wear down over time with regular use, I don't know, it just seems weird to me. I mean, is anybody else picking up what I am on there, like mixed messages? Now, the Huntsman has a Rockwell hardness rating of 52, but it's neither here nor there. It's just the hardness rating of the steel that they're telling us it has. EK finish durability on this one is 83. Right in the same neighborhood of the flip knife. It will withstand some use, but will wear down with regular constant use. I want to take a minute here close up to highlight how well refined the handle, the scales are here, because we're going to compare it to the other one in a minute. And we'll take some time to get kind of a close-up of the finish here. So this is the Gamma Phase 2. There's another one that's very similar to this. I really don't know. Another thing that Elemental is really proud of is that because they do these coatings the way they do them, each knife is kind of unique because it's like a randomized pattern. Now, if you remember how nice and refined the scales there look, this is what I was talking about in the other video when I said it looks kind of rough and beat up, like it might have already been used and dropped. It just doesn't have that same clean, refined look. This might actually be easier to see outside, but I don't know. But when I go outside, you know, in the morning and do some actual testing, I think you'll be able to see a little bit better that it just doesn't look as nicely put together, for lack of a better word. It's 2 in the morning, leave me alone. I would assume that this is also a plated type coating, although, you know, Mega Knife, again, gives you no information. But if you look in some areas, this coating is already sort of scratched. And this is before I even messed with it. This was just taking it out of the package. It was kind of hard to show that on camera the way I was filming earlier. Let's take a look at the Bowie with the plated coating. This one, they say, is a Rockwell hardness of 50. So, you know, again, it doesn't tell me what kind of steel it is or anything about it. I mean, the Rockwell hardness can be affected by a lot of things too. You could have 2 knives made with the exact same steel, and the way the heat treat was done could affect the hardness. So I shouldn't make it out like that's a really big thing to tell them apart. But the EK finished on this one, the durability is rated at 90, which is a separate level from the other one. So 90, it says finish holds with regular use and only wears down with heavy use, which tells me that they intend this to be heavily used, right? Durability rating that they give their knives is a 100, which none of these are 100, but 100 is finish holds with regular use and does not wear down at all. I don't know what kind of finish that is. I would love to see one that does not wear down at all, because I've never seen a knife coating that never wears down. You know, at the low end of the spectrum, they're like rating 1 through 29. Finish depreciates on its own with little or no contact. That's a coating I'd like to see too. What kind of coating do you put in a knife that just like, what is biodegradable, just dissolves on its own? I had noted outside there's this big screw in the back here, and I wanted to know what would happen if we would disassemble the whole knife just by opening that up. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I hope this doesn't ruin our ability to test. That comes out without any, it's not Loctited or anything. That's really easy. So we've got our pommel, got a very large screw that holds on. This is interesting because this is actually a nut, not a screw. Oh, there we go. And this is not a full tang knife. It is a partial tang, and it looks like this large screw was just sort of welded in to the very short end of the tang there. So, I mean, do we call this full tang? I'm not, because to me this is the tang and it ends, and this is just an extra piece. You wouldn't have the same stability as a full tang that goes all the way through. But that is how it goes on now we know. Let's hope that I can reassemble this as nicely as it came to begin with so that we can have it fully durable for the test. Another weird kind of interesting thing is that on the website, it actually says this has fiberglass handles. This is clearly G10. I mean, if you know what to look for and you can see the pattern of the material in there and just the feel of it, this is G10 skills. This is not plastic. So these are plastic, you know, or glass reinforced nylon, whatever you want to call it. This is G10. It's interesting. There's kind of weird stuff on the website. They also, like I said, they call it a frame lock. It's not a frame lock. So I don't know what's going on there. I should throw in here also that when I was looking around to get these, I found another website called csgogirl.com, and they also, so CSGO Girl, they also sell the same kind of replica knives from the game. They say that they're like one of the only official replica maker. I don't know. I haven't gotten that much into it, but there's another option you could check out if you wanted to look for one of these things. They're all the same though. They have all the same knives, all the same models. The coatings might have different names, but they all look the same. Now, I don't know if the coating, the actual coating they put on, is the same from company to company, but the color patterns are all the same. They call them different things. I'm going to be starting outside with the Bowie because it's kind of my favorite of all of the knives that we got to test here. So walking into this understanding that these are really, according to the website, display pieces, although they have some elements of functional knives, I'm not going to judge them too harshly. But I just want to see, you know, what if somebody did want to carry one of these around? What could they stand up to? How well are they made? So let's take a look. The sawback on this is actually really effective. So, well, sorry about the air conditioner kicking on there. So, you know, yes, it's a display piece, but that was almost no time and effort, and that's a pretty decent cut into this tree limb. So, don't see any deterioration on the coating right now. Maybe just a little tiny bit right there. But this is, you know, a solid piece of equipment so far. It would take us quite a while to actually saw through a whole limb like that, but you could do it. It's holding up. What I was looking for there was to see if there was going to be any kind of loosening on that little screw that's in there that holds it together. Everything seems pretty solid. And you see, it's actually, I mean, it's doing the job. It's getting the bark off there. And this is a pretty solid hardwood tree. The edge does leave something to be desired if we were going to use it for whittling or just trying to make some kindling or, you know, carving and shaping, but we knew it wasn't entirely sharp when we started, when we did the arm shaving test anyway, and the paper test. Easily though, you could put a better edge on this when you start. And once you get going, I mean, it's not too bad. I just have a feeling this would be a lot easier with one of the other knives that was a little bit sharper from the outset. I mean, the real thing is, will it hold the edge it has? And how hard is it for us to renew that edge out in the field? You know, if we were going to consider, can this be an actual utilitarian knife? Can we use it out in the field? So far though, I mean, it's comfortable. Haven't had any big problems, doesn't hurt. There's no hot spots or anything like that. It's got a pretty good balance, especially if you want to do the whack and the chop. It's pretty well designed there. If we take a look at the coating, it's a little smudged. Some tree on it, but I don't see any real deterioration of the coating itself so far. Of course, when it's all done, we'll have to wash the blade off real good and find out. I'm an uber idiot. I just did a whole sequence of trying to see if we could erode the coating with some repeated stabs into wet earth. I did 50, and I talked about how in previous videos I've seen actual field knives with field coatings get worn off from just that repeated in and out of the ground and the friction it causes and little pebbles and roots and soil and stuff. Yeah. And so the camera was off the whole time. It's too bad we had a nice appearance by Tato. But if you take a look, so 50 just real good stabs in and out of the ground here. You can see how the coating has started to wear off. It's not horrible though. I mean, it's not just coming off. It's wearing, you know, as you would expect to see any coating wear. So although we know this is not intended for field use, this actually holds up better than some of the Benchmade that I've tested, you know, and they're hard use knives. The whole black on the blade would just start to come up to about there, just from the stabbing that we've done. So you see nothing from the chopping. It's all just from the stabbing in and out of the earth. And if you ask me, I kind of like the look of it now a little bit better too. It's got a little more character. I like that it has a little use on it instead of just the rainbow look of the fade pattern. I'm really curious to see how this coating holds up because I still don't really know what this coating is. You know, from reading online, hearing about how it's molded, I feel like it's a plastic kind of heated on coating over the blade, but I want to see really with its hardness index how it holds up. So you can see a little bit of scuffing, just a little tiny bit on the coating. It hasn't worn off. This was much less comfortable to do the chopping than the Bowie was, but I kind of would expect that with this design of the handle. It doesn't wield itself as well to wiggling it around, but solid. I mean, the edge doesn't feel compromised or anything. Let's give the budget brand a try. I have a feeling that the results are going to be similar to what happened to the Bowie with the way the coating wears off. I think it might even wear off just a little bit more, but we'll start with the same chopping. Just initial hacks. I don't see a lot of damage to the coating there. It's dirty a little bit, but I don't see any like real removal of it or scraping or scuffing. But it wasn't until we did the ground plunging stabbing test that the Bowie really lost its coating either. So let's take a look at that. All right, so ready to test this with the old in and out of the earth. Let's give it a shot. 50 stabs, just like we did for the Bowie. 50. Oh, now number one, that hurt. That was very uncomfortable. Right here on my hand, in the pinky area, that was not conducive to stabbing. But this coating, let me wipe the blade off a little bit, held up far worse than the coating on the Bowie did. So with its hardness rating, which was actually I think higher than the Bowie, it did not really stand up that well. There's a little bit of chipping on this part of the blade. Now of course, again, let's throw this in there. They tell us on the website these things are mainly for display and collecting anyway, so you know we can't really hold it against the knife that it's not holding up the way a real field knife would. But on the other hand, if we flip the script, for a knife that's only intended for collecting and display, this is not a lot of damage. This is holding up fairly well. So you can see we've got it along these kind of, whatever, I don't want to call them serrations, but these spines on the back, the tip. It's starting to rain just a little bit, but let's give the cheaper version a try. I'm actually going to move the camera to give it some fresh earth to stab into. 50. So after 50 stabs into the earth, and it's amazing to me how the chopping doesn't mess with the coating as much as just stabbing into dirt does. But here's the wear and tear on the cheaper Huntsman. And I think actually this suffered the most of all. Because if you look at the Bowie, it's got the same kind of wear pattern, but much less pronounced than what took place here. So I guess you really do get what you pay for too, in terms of quality, when you get the actual elemental version or the cheaper version. Not sure which you'd say held up better, which coating. It could be just the design of this knife where a lot more of the initial impact was absorbed by this area right here, by the tip, which is why there might be more wear over here. But if you see, not so much all the way along the side of the knife, whereas the Bowie kind of has a wear almost all the way down the whole side, but it's distributed, you know. But this one clearly, the bluing on here did not hold up. this plating, not nearly as well. Now, I'm not going to do the chopping with this one because it's just not made for that, but let's do the stabbing. Let's see how this coating holds up to the earth test like the fixed blades do. Well, look at that. After 50 strikes, 50 stabs, there's I can't find any real actual wear. Okay, so that's not true. On the spine there, I can see some wear, but in terms of on the main blade itself, it looks like nothing happened. It looks like all of it was absorbed right there. So that's really interesting to me that the main face that you look at came out completely clean. Blade still feels pretty sharp. The thing is, we gotta clean this off real good before I fold it up again. We don't want to get any dirt and everything in there, but that's pretty cool that that held up so well. All right, so I got everything kind of cleaned up so we could take a look at the coatings and how they all survived, and kind of if there's any damage or anything. So we looked before that there was an issue with the tip of the Bowie, and it basically, the tip is a little blunted there, but you could see some scratches in the coating. You could see the wearing of the coating more on one side than the other. But to be honest, I kind of like the look of it with the wearing down of that coating. I think it really gives it some character. And to be honest, if you want like a replica of a combat knife, I mean, sure, there's two schools of thought. You could have the brand new kind of off the supply shelf look, or you could have the it's actually been used in combat look, and I like that kind of used in combat look. So if you want a replica of a knife you're using in the game to actually, you know, use in the field and take through combat with you, I mean, this kind of has that look of being used in the field. But overall, the coating held up, like I said, outside better than some of the kind of premium brands, and I'll use them as an example again. Benchmade's coating on some of their blades, the black coating that they use, it held up better than that. I've seen that black coating wear away a lot more than this has from just that stabbing into earth test. Looking at the Huntsman, some significantly more wear in that area where I guess it kind of takes the brunt of the friction going into the ground there. And then some scratching down along the blade. Still have a pretty glossy look to it towards the rear of the blade, but it's really kind of lost some of that gloss towards the front. And then along the spine too, it really wore. But it held up for the most part. And then looking at the Value brand, it wore very similar to the Bowie. Kind of less wear in one specific area, but again, it has that used kind of I've been through combat look that the Bowie does, and I like that. So it's really interesting to me, and I don't know if this is like, you know, plated versus coating, but there's not one area of really heavy wear and then just light scratches like there is with the Elemental Huntsman. It's got that same kind of wear pattern that really spreads it out over more of the blade, like the Bowie. However, you take a look, you can see that there is more wear, a lot more wear on this plating than on the Bowie. Now, I don't know if that's the shape of the knife or that Elemental just, you know, has kind of a higher standard, being that it is the more expensive brand. But it's still, I mean, you can see the coating is still there. It's still blued. It just looks more worn now. And then very surprisingly, the flip knife, besides the spine there, it shows like really no wear at all. None. I can't even really see any heavy scratches on there. Like the coating is still glossy. So I guess the real test though now, if we're asking like, can we actually use these knives if you wanted to? How did those edges hold up? So we'll go back to our good old friend, Practical Field Test 550 cord. And let's see if that edge is still, you know, cut worthy. Ooh, yeah. Well, we're having some trouble cutting right there. It wants to go through, it wants to cut, but it's not cutting very effectively. And see if we can find some hair left on my arm. It is not, it has lost the edge. Now I'm sure if you really needed to cut through something and you were willing to use enough force to go through it, you know, you could. But it's not cutting very effectively right now. I'm going to use a medium grit diamond stone, just see if we can very quickly and easily put that honed edge back on there and get it back in cutting shape. Well, that's better, you know, so it's still not shaving sharp, but the steel is, you know, relatively easy to maintain. I think that if I were to really take my time and gave it a good effort to sharpen it, we could take this back to field sharpened quality, you know, and be ready to use it again. So, not bad. The Bowie, I'm telling you right now, there's no edge there whatsoever. But then again, this wasn't very sharp to start with. There's almost no cut through that cord. Nothing. We'll give it a few runs on the stone. Just save time, I only kind of did the big curve there in the belly. Nah, and it's still, it's rough. It cut, but it took some force, and it's not in shaving shape at all. So this would take a lot more effort to get back into like a good cutting shape if you wanted to. The Huntsman, which you remember was shaveably sharp to begin with. Well, the rear part of the blade cut pretty well, but then again, we didn't really do too much cutting with that area. Let's see the forward part, which is what we really tested before, and what took the brunt of the cutting damage. Nah, once again, just like everything else, nothing. So we'll run on the stone a little bit. So again, it cuts, and it's a relatively clean cut, but it takes a lot of force to get through there. And it still doesn't want to shave. Now, I should be very clear, I'm only doing 6 swipes on each side with a 400 grit diamond stone. I'm not putting these blades through a whole sharpening and honing. You know, I mean, if I really wanted to get them into shape, I have no doubt that this steel, we could get these things razor sharp again. I'm just doing this as if we're in the field and we're putting them through a real quick sharpening routine with what we have. So let's try the budget brand. Now remember, this had the best edge out of the package when we started. Rear area, still good. The big forward belly. Nope, just like the others. Doesn't really want to cut. Doesn't want to shave. Stone time. All right, let's give it a try now. So it cuts again, but with force. And yeah, not sharp enough to shave. So we've got the same kind of result with all of them. And just to remind you, this is the only one where we knew what kind of steel we were dealing with, 440C. So there's really no difference in terms of maintainability with the different kinds of steels that we've got there. So overall, yes, they say they're meant for display only, but if you wanted to carry one and you wanted to use it, could you? I think yeah. If this was your cup of tea and this is what you wanted to take with you camping or, you know, in the field, for some reason, if this is what you wanted to rock, I think you could. it's just going to take some effort to maintain this, and you know, it's gonna be a little bit more workload intensive than, say, something that is definitely intended. When they say it's for display purposes only, I think they say that as almost like a disclaimer, because it just still, in my mind, I don't know why you would rate your coating in terms of how much use it takes to wear the coating off if something's not meant to be used anyway. And I hope you guys follow me with that logic. I think if they had no intention of these knives ever being used, they wouldn't even need to bother having a hardness rating on the coating and on the steel. What's the point? Just say, hey, this is the color pattern for this knife, period, dot. There would be no reason to talk about the Rockwell hardness of the steel and the hardness rating of the coating. It just would be a moot issue. It wouldn't even be a point. I think that for them to say display purposes only is just so that, you know, if some idiots buy this stuff and then do something stupid with them because they saw it in the game, they can say, well, we told you it was for display purposes only. And number two, it's because, you know, these probably are not the highest quality steels, and they're not the highest quality construction. Although I'll be honest, they're pretty solid knives. I mean, they're not bad. But it's also, you know, a way of them saying, like, if it falls apart, hey, we told you it's for display only. But I don't know. I really think they're sending mixed messages on that website with you know, the different things that they say. So anyway, but okay. So there we go. There is the actual usage test of these elemental knives. Now I have, like I said before, I got no use for these things. So they're a little bit beat up. Like I said, I think it gives them character. I actually really do like that Bowie. I mean, I think it's a sweet looking knife. And I think with a little bit of TLC and blade care, this thing could be useful out in a, you know, camping wilderness environment. I'm not so sure about the blade shapes of these. They're just, you know, a little awkward, I think, for my taste anyway. Not discounting that other people might like them. All four of these knives are going to go into the giveaway bucket for next time I do a giveaway. So as long as you guys don't mind getting some knives that show a little bit of character and use, these are going to go to some subscribers in the next big giveaway we do. And I will get the edges all back in fine razor sharp cutting shape, of course, before we send them out to anybody. And as I posted part one, I had some requests to look at some of the other knives in the line, and I had already actually decided, once I started looking at these, that I was going to do that too. The butterfly knife, the ballet song, and I hate karambits. I already talked about karambits, but you know, I got enough requests to look at the karambit that I'm going to do that one too. And I'm going to look at the M9 bayonet copy, even though it kills me to do it. So we'll see how those stack up in a future video against the real thing also. So you guys have that to look forward to. But I hope that, you know, you guys got something out of this. I enjoyed doing this just to see. I welcome your comments.
Muggle.
Did you just call me a muggle? Okay. So I'm going to roll right out of this into filming one with Aiden for a special item that you guys will see later on. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and we'll be back again real soon.